Battlefield 2042 has done what seemed like the impossible. The game has topped its highest concurrent player count 2 years after launch. However, there was a caveat to this statistic. It occurred during a free-to-play weekend where players could load up and test out the game for free. Well, that weekend has ended. It's now Thursday, and the player count is nearly identical to the weekend numbers. Yesterday's peak player count on Steam was 97,000 players, putting it into the top 10 games on Steam and ahead of titles like Call of Duty. Players are not leaving 2042 immediately after the free-to-play weekend, which was predicted by many. Instead, they're actually sticking around to play it out, which means that a lot of those people actually had to buy the game at the $10 discount price. Plus, the latest season probably brought in a lot of returning players as well. I streamed the game yesterday, and many people in chat were saying that they never actually bought the game because of the bad reviews at launch, but they tried it out for the first time this weekend, had a blast, were now hooked, and actually ended up buying it. And I can totally see why. I played Redacted over and over and over again without getting bored of this map. It's got the same sort of magic of trying to lane push, failing, regrouping, and trying a different tactic until you perfect it or get the right momentum push to see your team progress forward, or even having to fall back and defend the next point. And if anyone had told me that this is how 2042's journey would play out, I would have said you're dreaming. There's no way that this many players would come back to 2042 2 years later. DICE should be proud and happy of what they've been able to accomplish and effectively right the ship that is 2042. Now, is everything in 2042 a fantastic, well-balanced experience? No. However, in my opinion, and I think this would probably go for many others who have been playing the game for a while, 2042 became quite fun a while back. The first season that launched with the exposure map gave me many hours of fun, and the spearhead map in season 3 is one of my favorites in the game. The player base just really needed some sort of spark, an explosion to get everyone back in to see the work that DICE had been doing, and season 6 was that spark. The new Redacted map is arguably one of the best close quarter maps the franchise has seen. It's so good it basically makes the old school favorites like Metro and Lockers look deeply flawed by comparison, with their harsh choke points and lack of tactical variety. Redacted is a finely crafted map that recognizes the nuance of cover placement, sight lines, and the perfect amount of lanes and bypasses that makes for great gameplay. In my recent video where I got to interview the devs who made the map, listening to them talk about the design process was fascinating in that not only did they have to kind of revisit the classic ways of designing maps, but they improved upon them through tons of iteration and testing. It gives me great confidence in the team's current skill set. The question, of course, is, does this team keep working on 2042, or is this the final wave of content? Even season 6 was delayed by over a month because it just wasn't ready in time for the standard 3-month schedule, and if at this point DICE hasn't even mentioned the next season, chances are that they just weren't planning on having one, or they're literally scrambling to see if they can make another season to continue the growth and interest in the game. I keep thinking back to an interview with Rebecca Kutaz, who took over as general manager at DICE Stockholm shortly after 2042 launched. Her job was basically to fix DICE and prevent another 2042 launch from happening. And she said this during an interview shortly after she took over. We have to be able to innovate and take risks. To be able to innovate and take risks, you have to have a lean, agile organization so that you can test and fail fast. I hope we don't fail fast, of course, but you test and build on what's good, and if you need to fail, you fail fast. Now, personally, I really like this statement as it reminded me more of small teams in the way that they can adapt and work quickly versus large companies that need months of prep and planning for everything and can't pivot or react properly to situations, even situations of success. She was speaking more about general development here, but I wonder if the same type of team could pivot as needed to the massive player resurgence that their game is currently seeing. For example, any indie developer in this situation wouldn't go, wow, wow, look at our massively popular game right now. Let's abandon it and pursue a different title. It's kind of lunacy from a business standpoint if you think about it, but large companies like EA often have to plan their release schedules way in advance and can't just react to unexpected successes. Ironically though, big companies do react to failure much more quickly, firing off dev teams and closing entire studios. But with success, things seem to be more complicated. If Season 6 truly is the last season, it could be a while before players get any new Battlefield content. It seems unlikely that the next game would be ready to ship any sooner than like 2024 holiday season, which would basically mean like a year off of Battlefield content if this is it. Now, if DICE did commit to, say, 2 additional seasons to round it off at 8 total seasons, they could at least capitalize on the player base resurgence for some profit and keep players engaged and thinking about Battlefield once the next title rolls around, or at least once they're ready to announce the next title. Now, all that said, I truly have no idea what's in store for the future of this game franchise. One thing that I don't think EA or DICE will change anytime soon is their big studio approach to future plans. More open studios usually talk about what they want to do, say that they might need to pivot if it doesn't work, and then they keep players updated on the progress. DICE did a little bit of that during the map remasters and class reworks for 2042, but that level of communication has really relaxed since then. We do know that EA is basically dumping money into the future of this franchise with a new Seattle studio and multiple other studios working on various pieces of upcoming titles. We don't know how far along these games are, what they will be, or when they will launch, but if I were a marketing guy, I would want to keep that Battlefield news on the front page. Keep it fresh, not let things go into a lull during content drought. Now, all that said, if you're one of those people who always ask the question, is 2042 good yet? Well, the answer to that is yes. Lacking some map variety and map numbers compared to past games, but it's undeniably fun. There's tons of people playing right now. There's cross-platform play, so you can play with your friends no matter what system they own, solid progression, and good combat variety. Especially if you've avoided 2042 entirely since launch, then grabbing the game now for $10 is an absolute steal. Right now, I can't stop playing Redacted. It's so good for just grinding classes, weapons, and XP, and trying out some really cheesy but fun gameplay. Certain classes like Pike really come alive here, and if you love to play, say, Irish, his gadgets are invaluable on this map. It's almost like 2042 classes are mostly designed for this type of CQB gameplay versus the large open levels, and now that they have their natural habitats, they are absolutely thriving. Let me know your thoughts on the situation of 2042. Do you want more seasons for the game? Did you get back into it recently? And up next, check out this video about another game that corrected many of its launch flaws, Warhammer 40k Darktide. As always, thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.